There's so many issues at stake in the birbalsingh prayer mat case, which is going before the courts at the moment, and the issues almost need unpicking. On the one hand, there's the issue, the straightforward issue of a girl who went to the playground during break, stretched out her jacket, knelt on the jacket in order to pray, because prayer mats were forbidden. On the other hand, and other students then joined in. Now, did they join in because of mischief, or did they join in because of devotion? Were they offended by other children playing in the background? Were other children actually being offensive? Was this about bullying, or was this about religiosity? I don't know. Is the reason that this is being taken to court or being contested because birbalsingh is the sort of grind of the modern age? Well, she set up her school with Suella Braverman as one of the governors in the foundation of that school. So, frankly, that doesn't endear it or her to me. As for prayer rituals, I think they can be as divisive as they can be harmonious and inclusive. And one's got to think back to the 1980s, before the national curriculum was brought in. The only subject that was legally binding on a school to teach in a school was religion. The only subject. Not maths, not English, but religion. And it's still binding on schools to have some form of religious or spiritual or moral teaching in the school timetable every week. Now, I'm not quite sure how a secular school like birbalsingh's gets round that requirement, but I've been in many schools where there doesn't seem to be a religious assembly, where there doesn't seem to be an act of prayer during the week. I've also been in many schools where prayer is and religion is an essential part of the curriculum. I was, of course, brought up in a school where religion was a key part in the day-to-day running of the school. There was a huge chapel. In fact, there was a disused chapel which had been converted into a library and to dormitories. And there was a magnificent new chapel which looked like a sort of concrete version of Hagia Sophia. And very, very chilly because it was enormous to heat. And after I left, the interesting parts of that chapel were destroyed by a particularly Philistine headmaster, who I knew as the man who was tasked with beating boys. So for birbalsingh to pitch herself as the strictest teacher in the UK, well, you only have to go back a few years to find that there were teachers who were there were staff who were literally employed not so much to teach but to beat children. I don't think birbalsingh sees herself as a beater, but let's not beat around the bush on that one. The big issue is really the purpose of the prayer. Was this defiance? Was this rebellion? Or was this an act of piety and something, a sense of otherness and a wish to do something on a regular basis? I don't think it was a regular thing. I think this was a one-off moment. If it was a one-off moment, I don't understand why it was there. On a regular basis, I understand it. And I also think So I said that this whole thing needs to be unpicked because you've also got Nick Timothy in the background. He's one of the people. He's standing for Parliament. He's one of Theresa May's people, and he's referred to the girl who went down on her knees as an Islamist. The term is Muslim. Islamist sounds as if she's some sort of foreigner, invader. It sounds like an Islamophobic crusade rather than a matter of principle. It's also been revealed that she's receiving legal aid. Well, how does anybody know this? Unless that information comes directly from Birbalsingh or the school. How does anybody know? And there's a lot of interest in this. There's a lot of interest in similar sort of things. The last time there was a big interest in public religion, public displays of religion, was in British Airways and the stewardess who wanted to defy the ban on jewellery by wearing a cross to indicate her devotion to Christianity. And if the issue is about devotion, that's one thing, but you'd expect it to be on a permanent basis, not on a one-off. Sling down the jacket and pray. And so I don't really understand what's going on here. Birbalsingh, as I say, is the grad grind of modern education. Only facts. Only facts. Well, I think there's a lot more than facts in education, and I think we need to recognize the value of Christianity, Islam, Judaism to our modern curriculum. Without Islam, without the Caliph of Baghdad's initiative, we wouldn't have modern mathematics. It was the Islamic scholars who brought together the traditions of Greece and India and gave us the Arabic numerals, the decimal point. It's Christianity which gave us a lot of the modern education system and universities, but some of that is modelled on Islamic originals. And Judaism gives us much of the structure of our kingdom. It gives us the anointing of the king and so on. And you only have to walk down the street to see the gathering cluster of spires and minarets and the occasional synagogue. Religion is all over the place. Our street names are often named after saints. And so to defy history and culture and to pretend we live in a purely secular world is, I think, to fly in the face of reality. To make this a particular issue about Islam is, I think, to embrace the racism of the right wing. And I'm sure there's a lot of noise from that point of view. As somebody who went to a Catholic school, as somebody who's taught in religious schools of different faiths and different denominations, I am very much aware that religion can be a tool of mischief. And it's something that only the bravest teacher takes to task. But at the same time, encouraging an interest in the numinous, encouraging an interest in the abstract and in the unfathomable is to encourage an interest in the other. And that must be good for any school. I see no harm, and in fact today I was teaching a class about the ontological argument, with no thought that anybody particularly believed or didn't believe in God. It didn't figure in the issue. This was an issue about philosophy. But it did strike me as I was talking about this that it is underpinned with centuries of religious belief, and you can't automatically just say, oh well, I don't believe in God. Well, yeah. To follow Descartes, or rather Anselm, that makes you a fool. And I'm sure Jonathan Miller must be greatly entertained by that idea at the moment, if his atheism is it turns out to be wrong. I must say he would be greatly amused by that issue. Only the fool says in his heart there is no God, and the key point that Anselm is making is that even to say that is to invoke the name of God and to reference God in the concept of atheism. Even the statement atheism is to reference God, as Jonathan Miller would point out. So I think there is a big element where religion has to be considered seriously, and particularly today when religious bigotry is so present, when people are derided for their religious affiliation of different forms. And I think Birbalsingh has approached this wrongly, but equally I think the Nick Timothys are perhaps using the wrong sort of language. And over all of this, there must be the question about whether or not this is just a headline-grabbing bit of naughtiness on the part of a willful student. I have no idea. But I would be interested to be a fly on the wall.